Hi, everybody, and welcome. We are so excited tonight this was such a popular topic. And listen, with the budget and everything that's happening and how much disposable income, plus we're getting ready to have to buy a ton of holiday gifts. It is the perfect time to have the infamous Joanne Leonard Weary with us tonight. And talk to us about dupes, lookalikes, knockoffs. Do we love them or hate them or lose them?
Yeah, that is what we're going to talk about tonight, because I was recently on a call with a number of other designers and the topic of dupes came up, and it was amazing how many of them turned their noses down on it. And let's be honest now. I mean, dupes is what there have been for forever. There really isn't a creative idea out there anymore. Oftentimes I watch HGTV and they'll be showing some little fun hack or something. I think, we did that 25 years ago. So the whole idea of a dupe is simply that something meets with approval, and so other people jump on that bandwagon. It's capitalism at its best. So we're going to talk about, how to decide. Do I go for the original? Do I get the dupe? What are some of the factors that should come into play, whether it's for your own home or for your client's home? We're going to share some questions that you need to talk to your client about. And Sandra, this mirror, this is, everyone has seen Anthropologie's Primrose mirror, which in itself is a dupe because it was inspired by the Parisian gilded framed mirrors. And, somebody said, hey, I like that look. I'm bringing it in after years of, farmhouse and a little cleaner lines. It's nice to see some filigree back, but Anthropologie's version, depending on the size you go with, goes anywhere from $800 to $1,500. And you can find very similar products, lookalikes, and we're going to talk about the difference. You can find lookalikes for as little as a couple hundred. In fact, the other day I was walking through our dollar store and there was a knockoff of the Anthropologie Primrose mirror in your Dollar General. So if it's made it to Dollar General, you might want to think, is this something I still want to be recommending? Now, the big thing was the telltale signs that it was a knockoff. It was plastic frame. It had a very shiny, cheap looking gold finish. So, sometimes a knockoff, a lookalike, a dupe can be just as beautiful looking as the original. And sometimes there's compromises. Sandra, you were talking about this mirror with a salon that you're working on, correct?
Yeah. So I have this fun hairdresser and she's 20 something. She's super hip. I mean, just like I would love to share some of what she is drawn to for her house that she's buying. But one of the things that, as you're getting your hair colored, she's like, oh, Sandra, help me find this mirror. And so what she does is she brings up the Anthropologie version of it, which of course is not in her budget. She's buying her first home. And I said, oh my gosh, we can find this and we can find close to this. And like Joanne said, unless you're touching it. So when you're thinking about these dupes or lookalikes or knockoffs, unless your guest or somebody in your home is going up and touching that, it's hard sometimes with some of the add-ons like rub and buff and the things that we can do to plastic frames to know if it's plastic or not. So we sat there and it really took us only about 4 clicks to give her 2 really good lookalikes. And I mean, one was at Wayfair, one was on Amazon, actually there was another one on eBay. But I said, before we do anything, let's just even walk through some of these options that we have so you can touch and feel them. But yeah, so I'm thinking here's the mirror that my grandmother had, again, like more on a makeup
Right,
vanity. And
right.
here it is now, full circle. The 20-something-year-olds are drawn to it, to the point they're like, that's the one item I want to splurge on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you're right. And that is it a splurge or a save kind of thing? Hey, Sandra, can you maybe just look at your settings and change this so it's just showing presentation and taking you and I out in the Zoom settings, you know, how you can do that
Yeah.
view.
Let me just see.
And again, I'm just trying to get them to have the screen as big as possible instead of you and I and our black boxes on the side there. So,
Oh, now
you
see,
know,
it's not showing that on my, if somebody will just type
okay,
it and see if it's just the, let's say 3/4 of the screen is the PowerPoint and the side version is the upcoming slide. I think that's, I am looking for that though too, Joanne, just,
yeah, because what I'm seeing is you and I on the side and then the presentation. So, but for those of you that are not aware, this is Joanne and Sandra are here tonight to share this information with you. And, you know, I can't see all of who is on, Sandra, but I saw a few of the names at the beginning, and I absolutely love that so many of you have been hanging out with us for so many years. So I hope you do feel like you still learn from us. So let's talk about what inspires a dupe or a lookalike. And it begins with the trends and the fads. Now, I had a thought when it comes to trends and fads. The reality is that oftentimes something that becomes a trend is simply something that has always been there, but we weren't aware of it before. And let's talk about the colors of the year, for example. When Sherwin-Williams had what was the blue that was a couple of years ago?
navel.
Navel, yeah. That was not a new color by any means, but they said, hey, let's look at these 2,000 different colors of paint and let's highlight one of them. It's kind of like going into the restaurant and meatloaf is the feature of the evening. Meatloaf is on the menu every night, but because they made it the feature of the evening, everybody says, well, hey, maybe I'll have myself some meatloaf. And so that's part of what happens when it comes to the trends and the fads. It's that something is simply highlighted, something is dangled in front of us that we've seen before in some version or another, because as I said, there really are no new ideas anymore. But it's suddenly something that you go, wait a minute, oh. And then all of a sudden we have this onslaught of Navy cabinets or Navy kitchens or Navy living rooms because we were made aware of that. And this awareness is what's going to spawn the dupes and the lookalikes.
You know, and nothing makes me sadder is when I see some of the paint companies pick a color that you know that is going to go with about 2% of any home out there. But because they've said it, like Joanne says, like the meatloaf effect, they try so hard and they put it in rooms and you see and they post them on Instagram and wherever, and you're like, oh my gosh, you should not have focused on the lookalike because it's not looking good in that room.
Right, right. So let's kind of talk about the cycle of a dupe or a lookalike. And first, it does begin with awareness. 10 years ago, none of us would really have thought about painting our woodwork black. And suddenly we saw it again and again and again. And, you know, along with white walls, that again, 10 years ago, we would have been saying to our clients, hey, we can do so much better than white. Well, white has had quite a trend. But one of the things that makes it work so effectively is the power of contrast. So going dark with your woodwork and light with your walls still creates interest. So now we're seeing black woodwork all over the place. Black windows, just about every new house that's being built out there now has black windows in it. So it begins with social media and marketing. And again, capitalism kicks in, because if we are all complacent and like everything exactly as it is, and don't have a desire to do anything different, then that sure does slow down the money rush. So the powers that be out there, the financial forces are always looking for things to do. So we open up our pocketbooks.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you hold on one second. I'm gonna mute me.
Okay.
Can you hear the music I have? Oh, in case you can't hear it, we're gonna get it extra loud. Hold on.
So the next thing after awareness is aspirational element kicks in. In other words, you might have seen it the first time and said, oh my God, I would never paint my woodwork black. I would never paint my walls dark blue. I would never wear a yellow green leather jacket. And then you start to visualize it, and then you start to desire it. And this is when the dupes begin to appear, because in the trend, the desire is starting to grow. People want it to be part of their life. The next step is acquirement. It's like, I saw it, I visualize it or want it, and now it's time for me to have it. And so now is when you're going to make a decision based on some of the points we're going to talk about, whether you're going to buy the dupe or the original. And then the last stage is apathy. It's like, my God, if I see one more white kitchen, I'm going to vomit. If I see one more, whatever it may be, you fill in the blank. And it's why oftentimes for us, our clients are just starting to get on top of a trend that we've already been observing. We're tired of it. We're over it. But our clients have not gone through all of these 4 steps. Your thoughts, Sandra?
You know what? I was just sitting here thinking too, because part of this cycle, when we're talking about seeing it, or let's say have to have it, that happens with the neighbor effect too. Like, how many times, Joanne, have we had a client go, oh, I want what you did in so-and-so's house. And it's like, I will pay for it. And sometimes it's our job too, to kind of consider their budget, line their budget up with their have to have, so to speak. Like, do you want this enough to, see a big credit card and pay interest on it?
Right. Because there's a trade-off. There's always going to be a trade-off somewhere, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so I went online and I Googled, the top Instagram designers, and these were some of them that came up. And all of them are more luxury designers. I would consider, they're not working with clients that are concerned about what they are spending. And yet, as I looked at every one of the rooms, there still was a quality of sameness to what they are doing. The light walls mixed with the warm woods with a touch of black, whether it be in the lighting or in the frames. And this is exactly when the dupe element kicks in big time. It's like, okay, everybody is liking this. What price range can I create it in that I can make some money and ride this wave? Because that's what it boils down to. And please understand, when I say that about there being a sameness, every one of these rooms are beautiful, but you can see what I'm saying. In a sense, oftentimes we're even creating our dupes. If you went to Pinterest or you went to Instagram and that inspired what you're doing, we're creating our own version of a dupe.
That's a great point. And the other thing too, I can't help but look at these, even all of them, and think, talking about the trends and how that can influence, which mirror you might fall in love with. And even going back to the primrose mirror, the curve effect. So if you are aware of the trends and can just put a few of them in, curved tables, not overdo it and not go have to start over, but just understand those few things. And Joanne and I really do preach this all the time about those design principles, that scale and proportion. And that's
line,
one of the
shape, and
reasons.
form. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in that rhythm. So, and don't miss those architectural moments to kind of even highlight your skills more.
Absolutely. So when it comes to a dupe, do you love it or do you lose it? And there's a few questions that you'll want to ask. And number one is, does brand name matter to you? Now, I have two amazingly wonderful daughters. If you hear of me dropping over one day, there are strict orders that someone is to take my phone and erase all of our text chains, because the conversations that we have via text are mostly inappropriate, and they make me laugh hysterically. But my daughter Megan, my youngest one, she would kill for a designer bag. Kelly, my older daughter, could not care less. So the first thing that you need to ascertain is, does brand name matter to you or to your client? Do they like to name drop? And can you spot a fake a mile away? I mean, I had a designer bag one day that my daughter had given me because she's like, oh my God, mother, you need to be carrying a designer bag. And I'm the same way. I mean, I can be carrying one of those 99-cent bags from Home Goods. As long as I can haul my crap in it, that's all I really care about. But for some people, it's very important for them. When I watch The Real Housewives, I think, why do you want to sport so many things with someone else's name all over them? Don't get it, never have get it. But there's not a wrong. If that matters to you or your client, then you'll want to keep that in mind. So here's an example, although these lights are not exactly the same, and I did find one that matched almost exactly. You know, the rejuvenation lamp is $630, and the world market knockoff is $75. Now, you got to compare the details, like Sandra talked about. If you can touch and feel them, it's important, because is that gold bright, shiny, tacky looking gold? You know, is the frame real flimsy? If you are doing lookalikes, you have to know that there are always going to be compromises. So you just have to decide if it's compromises that you or your client can live with. Maybe you want to spend money on a piece of art that is, you know, one of a kind or a limited edition. So you say, I'm going to save money on the lighting. And again, it's understanding how to help your client use their money effectively. So compare the details when you're looking at things. Is the size the same? Look at the weight. Look at the reviews. Very important. Sandra?
Oh, that is a really good point about the reviews. I learned my lesson on this point when I had a client, lived in a very nice home, had a $1.5 million RV, and I asked her, do you care? Do you have particular brands you like? You know, I knew enough to ask that question. And she's like, no, I love Home Goods too, because they have some really cool things. So when she's super happy with everything, but when we got to her sheets, her bedding, not necessarily the top, but just what's touching them, she said, oh no, I have a particular brand I like. I said, oh great, just tell me what it is and I'll pick us out some. They were $800 sheets. And
Wow.
I could not have lined that. It just caught me off guard. So I learned to kind of, like you were saying, you know, do you care? Does the name mean something to you?
Right.
It wasn't so much she wanted the name, because some clients do like to say that. She just wanted those sheets. So when it came time to outfit the RV, to design that and decorate it, and we had a curved king size bed, I thought, well, I'm getting $800 sheets and I am sending them to the manufacturer and they can make them, because there's no way I'm trusting $800 sheets with my fabricator. So, I mean, it was a really good lesson for me to, you know, you would not have expected that.
Right, right. Yeah. Where does someone want to invest their money? Hey, I have to say let me see, who was it here? Debbie, thank you. She says, holy cow, Joanne, your new haircut makes you look really young. And my hairdresser, I'll turn it back on so you can all see. I'll turn my screen on. See?
Let's see.
My hairdresser said that today too. She said, you look younger. I said, oh, do I look 68 or 69 instead of 70? I'll take whatever I can get.
Joanne, it's a dupe. It's a dupe.
It's a dupe. Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of dupes, do we all remember the Farrah Fawcett hairdo? For those of you that are a little older, I was a Farrah Fawcett dupe, but I didn't look like her, and nobody put me on a poster to hang in teenage boys' bedrooms at all.
You don't know, they might have.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, are the other items in the space of comparable quality? And quality does not necessarily mean the most expensive. It means it is the illusion of quality. And we all know it. You can go to Home Goods and look at the rugs hanging there, and you can see a $400 rug hanging at Home Goods that looks quality. And you might see an $800 rug hanging there that looks tacky and cheap. We see the difference in the fabrics and the finish and the sheen and the shine. So you want everything in the room to feel like it belongs together. I thought this was a great dupe. So here we have the Pottery Barn version of the round nesting coffee tables, $1,600. And here was Wayfair's for $200. Now, Wayfair's was, if you look at it, you can see the wood's not quite as thick, and it was a little smaller. I think the Pottery Barn was 40-inch, and the Wayfair one, I believe, was 36-inch. And certainly there were some other compromises, but don't put something that is ultra expensive that makes everything else look tired and sad. You know, it's like me standing next to a 25-year-old anymore. I'm going to look older standing next to a 25-year-old. So I'm going to make sure that I hang with my own kind so that I can blend in. But your room will do the same thing. You want everything in there to feel comparable quality. So does the room say curated, or does it say cheap? And we've all seen it. The person that tried to put together the room and the finish on the walls was too shiny. It was a poor paint product, or the fabric on the sofa had a funny look to it, and it just throws the whole room off. And here again, important point, I mentioned it before, read the reviews and understand what is the compromise. When you're looking at the details, look at the weight of an item. That's going to be one of your compromises, because if it weighs a whole lot less from the regular, then you know it's not going to have the lasting power of the original.
That's a great point. And the other little side note here, if you are recommending somebody, make sure that you have had that opportunity to compare their work. My friend Bobby McGinnis and I shared a upholsterer, and somebody had recommended her, and we were both new. So I said, well, I will try. It was a brown sofa. It wasn't like we had to match any patterns. And Bobby was going to use the fabric was something along the lines, either $150 or $199 a yard. And so when I got the product, when I got my sofa back, I called Bobby and I said, oh my gosh, please tell me you have not given her that fabric yet. And she had, and her job looked as awful as mine did. But we also, and when we're recommending, it's like Joanne said, if it's costing the client $200, they're not going to expect it, but you're still going to cover it, that $1,600 coffee table. So just when you're recommending other people, I always would say, this is my cheap and cheerful painter, and this is my painter that is going to be very attentive to detail, but it's going to cost more.
Right, right. Yeah, everything is going to have a compromise to it. Okay, number 3, the question you need to ask, is it an item that will get a great deal of use? And if so, then consider buying up to ensure you get the lasting power that you most likely want in your home. So in other words, you know, a sofa may not be the place that you want to compromise too much. There again, understand the usage and know what went into making that. So that doesn't mean I need to buy, you know, a $20,000 sofa. I can buy a $1,500 sofa that can last just as well. Just do your homework. And again, you know, I sometimes will say to a client, okay, we can use this sofa, but you have to understand this is a 1 to 3 year sofa. And as long as they understand that, then you're fine. But you again need to do your homework. So, you know, these beds are a good example. You know, there's the deluxe version for $2,000 and a similar version from Wayfair for $300. So where is the compromise? Is it in the thread count in the linen? Is it in the frame materials that were used? Is the, you know, chances are the Wayfair one is simply cardboard with some batting on top of it. So again, understand where it's being used and will it take, you know, hold up to that, or at least let the client know this is 1 to 3 year furniture.
And another little point too, if you're staging a home, a lot of times we can make that assumption that, oh gosh, it doesn't have to be the same quality as the more expensive bed or the more expensive sofa. You know, so it's really good to ask, what do you plan to do with this sofa after the house sells? If you get the response, oh gosh, I'm going to donate it, I don't care, then that tells you we could go economical. If it's like, oh gosh, no, I need a new sofa at my home and, you know, wherever. So it's good to remember to ask those questions and not assume even in staging.
And also I think it's important too, when we look at, you know, some of the places that we consider inexpensive for furniture that you might even look your nose down on and not look. And IKEA is a good case in point. Now, IKEA has their Ektorp sofa, which was a dupe of Pottery Barn's slip-covered sofa. What are the compromises? The compromises are that it sits lower. It's very uncomfortable for any length of time, as opposed to the Pottery Barn. The frame is simply not the quality. However, I have in my family room, I have an IKEA sofa that was 6 times the money of the Ektorp, and it has one cushion and it's slip covered, and I have it done in a charcoal velvet slip cover. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head. It is the most comfortable sofa I have ever sat in. Now, it still is not an expensive sofa in today's world. I think it was $1,800. But the Ektorp sofa, perfect for staging in mid to lower price houses. It has the look, but I would be giving up the comfort. And again, if my client says, no, that's all I can afford to do, then know what you're giving up on. So number 4, is it purely decorative? If it's purely decorative, then you can do whatever you want. So how do you find these dupes? One of the things you can do is try doing reverse Google image searches. So if you love the Primrose Mirror from what's
Anthropology.
Thank you, dear. From Anthropology, then simply do a reverse Google image search. So you do just like doing a search for anything else on Google, but you upload the picture and then it will find comparable pieces for you so that you can narrow the focus. Maybe you see something at a home show or a trade show or something that you like. Again, it's a way for you to look. I think the one thing that we have to understand is, you know, we've all had situations where someone will do a knockoff of something, and it's like, well, you don't want to take away from the person that came up with it originally, but sometimes a sofa is a sofa, and the fact that it has a slipcover on it that made it more usable to a broader audience, then there's nothing wrong with someone being able to get that sofa that couldn't afford the original, as long as they know the compromises. I know I keep saying that to you. Okay, next. The next thing is time of the essence. So here we have a good example. Here's RH's Cloud Sofa, about $12,000 as it looks there. Bob's Discount Furniture, looking at the sofa, $2,700, which is not cheap for some people. You know, inexpensive means different things to different people. You can see they look very comparable to one another. But if you're in love with the Cloud Sofa, you might be waiting 6 or 8 months for that Cloud Sofa to come. So again, if you look at Bob's Discount Furniture and consider it, you know, ask what the frame is made of. What is the batting in there? This sofa, even in the Cloud version, RH's version, it looks bad quickly because it's just the nature of the beast, because everything is just sacks, everything is soft, so it's going to break down more quickly. Try to find out as much as you can about how much batting is in each of those cushions. But most of all, you know, if it's going to take a long time to come, then you can offer your client a look-alike or a dupe. But again, ask the questions about the things that you do not see, because that is what's going to impact the way that sofa looks a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and so on.
And truthfully, let's face it, what also looks bad is adults trying to get out of these sofas. Dave, we stayed in a home this summer, and it was, I really wished I could remember who made it, but it was incredibly expensive. I wish it was not pretty, us trying to roll out of that.
That is so true. Yes, you are right. You are right. And at our age, it becomes even more difficult. So, okay, the last question is what you want on the front end of a trend or toward the end. So Sandra's client that says to her, help me find this mirror. And perhaps that client says, you know, I'm ready to lay down money for the original. Sandra may say to her, you know, I just want you to know this is a trend that has been around for a while and there's going to be a shift. Do you want to invest that money? And or, let's be honest, Emily, that Parisian style mirror is truly a classic. I mean, it's one of those things like, you know, a great toile or a cheetah print that really never completely goes out of style. But make sure your client is aware you're at the end of this trend. Have you been lusting after it for a while? You know, have you been in the aspirational mode and haven't really made the change? Then the other thing that you might even consider at this point is looking for gently used versions, vintage, as well as the dupes or the lookalikes.
And I sometimes too, I think the practicality of the item can make you willing to keep it in your house longer, even though the trend may be over. And we pointed out to them, they're like, gosh, but this basket, I can store our throws or the kids' toys or things like that. I think that can play a part to how much we are willing to still invest in it.
Right, absolutely. I just was looking at the participants and again, love seeing the familiar names there. Barbara, hi, I hope you got my message. I look forward to speaking for your group in February, and many other familiar names on here. So again, Sandra and I are delighted that you still think we bring something to the table. So
Yes,
bottom line is, spend your money or your client's money the way you want. Don't let someone make you feel bad about settling for a dupe or splurging on the original. You know, like my daughter, I mean, her Husband brought her back purses from Paris. He stood in line for hours to bring her back a purse. And my daughter Kelly and I were like, "Are you serious? You spent that much for a purse?" And she said, "Don't take away my joy." And it's like, yeah, you're right. If that's what you want to spend your money on, then it's not my business. Buy it and love it until you don't anymore. And then you can pass it on to the world.
And it's so hard not to share when it is a dupe. I was in the airport the other day and I had a knockoff purse, and the lady goes, "Oh my gosh, I've always wanted one of those purses." And again, could not keep my mouth shut. I'm like, "It's not Caitlin, like my daughter all but knocked me off the seat." I'm like, "I know, but I just want her to know that she could, get an economical version too."
And there would be other people. My daughter would have spotted that it wasn't the real immediately. And me, you could tell me what to look for and I wouldn't know. So, don't make somebody feel bad if something is not important to them. I had one of my students years ago, she had this thing for expensive lamps. And I was working out of town teaching, and I had clients who wanted to do a one-day decorating project on her family room in her basement because she was having out-of-town guests. And so my friend did the project, and then my client called me and she said, "Joanne, she wants me to spend $1,500 on 2 lamps for my room, a room that we go in twice a year." So to my designer friend, that was important to her. Quality lamps was important to her. To my client friend, she was like, "No, if I'm going to spend that much money, I'm going to put those lamps in the room where I see them on a regular basis." So what is important to you and what is important to your client? Okay, here are a few dupe experts out there. Kendra found it. Kendra is on Instagram, she's on TikTok, and she does dupes all the time. One I do not have on here is Design Broker. She is another great one. You'll find her on TikTok. You'll find her on Instagram as well. MozziLife.com. TikTok, just go in and do a search for home decor dupes, and you're going to be amazed how many pop up, as well as YouTube. And Sandra and I will be talking more about dupes in the coming year because I'm trying to dupe a younger woman here, as Debbie said, with my new haircut.
Oh my God.
All right. Any questions? We are here for your entertainment pleasures. So, and there's Sandra and I with our different hairdos. We were talking about that, what, Sandra, we've worked together now about 20 years, haven't we?
Yeah.
Or
No, it's been more than that. I think it's like 21 or 2. We could be. That does make
wow. We didn't even do anything for our anniversary, man.
No.
But we've had lots of hairdos over the years, and I've been
This
lots
is
of
not my
different
best.
sizes.
But I'm here
Okay,
for you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? And
Well,
we hope you
I'll give
enjoyed
everybody a chance to thank Cindy. It was great seeing us. Great info, stuff she hadn't heard before. That's what this is all about when we're sharing this information. I'll share something that happened to me. We were in COVID, and I was looking for a display console table. And I found one that I loved. And let's see, the first price tag was like $2,200. I'm like, no. And then I found Joanna Gaines had her version at Living Spaces, round $600 and something. And I'm like, okay, but I knew where this piece was going. It was going to go in a dark hallway. I did want it to be nice. And I had a very particular industrial look that I wanted. And my husband had wrote, and I was gonna, I love me that console table. So I literally one day at home, ad popped up. I got the best dupe for $128.
Wow.
I mean, it honestly, there might might be a weight difference, but you cannot tell. I mean, I could not tell. So, yeah, so at home, and I really wouldn't have put that top of my
Yeah,
mind.
they do a lot of great dupes. And you know, the thing that I have to understand, because you know, I know if I was sitting in a group of my peers, some of my peers would be like looking down their noses at the idea of substituting a dupe. But the bottom line is our clients come in all shapes and sizes. Our living rooms come in all shapes and sizes. So spend where it's important, save where you can, and don't feel bad in the process. This should not be, a beautiful home should not be an elitist process.
Exactly. And a happy client is a repeat client. Just
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
well, another fun educational webinar, Joanne. Thanks for Joanne put this together, and it is awesome as always. And we're glad we could bring it to you. And I had several emails today wanting to know if it would be recorded. So we'll put it on the YouTube channel and share it out there so that you can enjoy it. So thank you guys. Let me make one more look and make sure we've answered. Let's see, Barbara had a comment. I know that Google Images can find an item by a photo, but how do I do this? So refresh her one more time on that, Joanne.
Sandra, you want to back up to that slide?
I would love to.
So basically, Barbara, what you're going to do is find the picture of what you like and save it. So you have that saved in your images. And then you're going to open up the app on sorry, my brain did not connect with my mouth there.
Like the Google Internet. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. But I think what you type in is images.google.com, I believe is what it is.
If I wasn't in Zoom, I could show you, but if you, and I have done it where you can right click it and it'll say Google
there
search.
It is right there. Yeah, images.google.com. On sometimes, depending on the program that you are in, if you right click, it will come up with something that says Google Lens, Lens, Google Lens. And you can just drop the picture in there. But when you do the images.google.com, in the bar, it will allow you to upload a photo. And then you just do a search and it'll come up with everywhere it finds something comparable to what you have, so you can narrow the focus. Also, if you know the name of the item that you're looking for, example, Anthropologie's Primrose Mirror, then do a search on that and add the word lookalikes, dupes, low versions or something like that. And so it really is easy. And Barbara, if you need to be walked through it, feel free to give me a call and we can do it together online. And the other thing that I think is important is, Sandra, you and I talked about this earlier today, was Sabrina Soto had a show on HGTV that I'm sorry didn't last, and it was called High Low. And she would do exactly that. People would walk in, they would look at the room, the high version, and then she would do the low version, and they could decide which one was better. And more often than that, you could not tell the difference. But again, wherever there are compromises, you have to know if that's going to impact your overall usage of that item.
That's a good point. And two, how close are your eyes to it? Like we were talking about lighting. Yes, you can tell if it's a chain or if it is, if it's covered in a gorgeous, brass detail, but you still can't get that close. So if it looks the same, you're not going to be able to touch that material as much when it's out of your line of sight.
Right. It was like it was like the Dollar General mirror that I said I saw the other day. It was a plastic frame and it was a very bright, tacky looking gold. So you knew immediately. And go ahead. I interrupted you. I apologize.
Oh no, I don't even know what I was going to say, but it was something very important.
I'm sure.
But yeah, But that's where that Rub and Buff, you guys know, I love that. If you're
Yes.
not familiar with Rub and Buff, it is about the size of a travel toothpaste, comes in like tons of colors, and you just put it on your finger and you can rub it. And that's
Mhm.
the whole purpose. Rub it and buff it, and then you will knock down that bright gold or that, bright plastic look, whatever it might be. It could be, silver,
Right.
but it changes that color and it gives it that burnished, more expensive look.
Yeah, that patina to it.
Mhm.
And then also too, the other thing I want you to think about is just to even experiment. Steph was on here earlier, and Steph and I just participated in a holiday house tour in our community for the Historical Society. And one of the things we did, not Steph and I, but myself and another one of the designers involved, we did a dupe Christmas tree by going out in the fields, and we cut all kinds of plumes. We cut campus grass plumes from our local Catholic church, so they were blessed, I'm figuring. We cut cattail plumes. We just went out in the fields, and many of the things were like tight when we cut them, and as soon as they got into the heat, they bloomed out. Check my Facebook page over the next day, and I'll make sure to put up a picture of that. I'll tag the DSA in there. But think of how you can use items in a different way. Become the person that everybody wants to do. Is it another great way to approach it?
That's great. And that's a good point too. If you guys haven't connected, or we appreciate you following us or giving us a shout out if you enjoyed this. And as always, we appreciate you being part of our group, and we learn from each other. So I will put the recording up in the next 24 hours. And again, here's all our info, and reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra, for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You just always teach us something new and exciting.
Okay, when that day comes, I know I lay my head down. But I can't.
Oh, I love it. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.